The pack line defense is a basketball defensive strategy developed by Dick Bennett and popularized by his son Tony Bennett at the University of Virginia. The pack line defense is a team defense that limits dribble penetration and protecting the area inside the three-point line. We are going to go over every component of the defense and show clips of the pack line defense success from the 2018-2019 University of Virginia National Championship team. The pack line defense operates within a 16-foot imaginary arc, just inside the three-point line. The pack line defense has one defender on the ball and four positioned within the pack line. In the pack line defense, we have a concept called gaps, which refers to where defenders position themselves in the driving lanes. These gaps are between the ball handler and their own man. This position aims to prevent or discourage the ball handler from penetrating towards the basket and make it hard to execute cuts and make the offense take contested shots. Going to the clips with the Virginia Cavaliers, you can see that there is ball pressure and four in the pack line at all times. The only time there isn't four in the pack line is to chase an offensive player off an off-ball screen or following a player that is going to set an on-ball screen. Let's start by talking about the on-ball defender. The pack line defense is not a lackadaisical defense. The defense needs to pressure the ball at all times. When players feel pressure, they usually look to drive. Having help in the gaps when players are driving creates mistakes by the offense because it means they are going to be dribbling into a defender. The first thing we're going to go over is called the heat-up line. The heat-up line is the reference on where the on-ball defender starts picking up the ball handler. Different coaches choose different places to pick up the basketball, but usually the ball is picked up around the half-court line. The biggest key is always having consistent pressure on the ball. When the ball is up top, we do not want any straight line drives. We want the defender to be squared up to his man and want him to stay between the ball and the rim. The on-ball defender will allow no outside or baseline drives. If an opponent is going to drive, it is going to be to where our help is, which is towards the middle of the floor. Again, the pack line defense is not a lackadaisical defense. There should be an intense ball pressure at all times. When there's pressure, it's going to make the offense feel uncomfortable. Teaching points we like to talk about are to keep a cushion and about an arm's length away, giving the defender space to move their feet and create an angle of pursuit. The angle of pursuit means leading the offense towards the gap help, and when the ball handler attacks, beating them to a spot on the floor and cutting them off. If the on-ball defender can stay in front of the ball with no help, that is when the defense gets extremely effective.
And that last defensive possession for UVA, they did a pretty good job. Just a loose ball play ended up in the right hands of Perez.
Offensive. Saturday stayed in the hotel here in Minneapolis, but he's here today.
He's the architect of this defense. My father couldn't go to the games either, but for a different reason. He knew the outcome. A lot of motion, a lot of activity. I think both teams are going to have to dribble drive, create a pinch, and then a fine.
Culver had a good look. And
now we're going to talk about our gaps. Defenders 2 and 3 are both one pass away. They are in what we call the direct gap and must be able to stop dribble penetration. 4 and 5 are 2 passes away, which we call being in the help. Placement for 4 is based on personal preference. Defender 4 can be on the lane line, a step closer to his defender, or split the difference. I like my players to personally be in the line with the ball when we do the pack line style defense, so they are in the passing lane of the ball. Pack line positioning and technique. When the ball goes to the corner, we need to have good high hands on closeouts and send the offensive player towards our help, which is going to be towards the middle. Defender 1 will jump to the ball and be in the gap. 3 is going to jump to the ball and be in the help, splitting between the two top offensive players. 4 is going to be in the help, having 1 foot in the paint or be positioned in the NBA lane line. This is a special situation where the big offensive player is on the other side of the ball. We will be in the help by being under the basket.
Turnover, Wild won a couple of bad possessions.
Kyle Guy, one of the best three-point shooters in the country.
He's having to shoot over length in this one.
O'Shea Brissett.
When the ball is swung against the pack line defense, 3 will close out to the ball, player 1 will jump to the ball and play the gap. 4 will then become gap, and 2 will then be in the help, being on the lane line. And 5 is on top of the post player and is up the line and on the line, making sure that there's no direct pass to the post.
Down in the D.C., Maryland area, which has always been such a key recruiting spot for Syracuse, dating all the way back to the early days of the 60s with Dave Bing. Mintz has to force it up. Beekman blocked it. Did the shot beat the buzzer?
When the ball gets passed to the high corner or low wing, 4 will close out, 3 will jump to the ball and get into the pack line. 5 will 3/4 the post, 2 will be on the help, having a foot in the paint. 1 will split the difference with the players on top.
29% in the game. Beetle back on the floor with Godfrey, Shefflin, Chase Hunter, and Clark. Chase Hunter, a jab step. In the face of Beekman, misses a 3.
When the ball gets skipped, what's going to happen is 1's going to close out and take the ball. 2 is going to run towards the gap, not his man, but in the gap. 3 will also play and run into the gap. 4 will be in the help in line of the ball, and 5 will then be in the hole. In the pack line defense, the on-ball defender should never allow a baseline drive. However, it's basketball, and the things we don't want happen occasionally, and we want to be prepared in these important situations so we can correct our mistakes. When a baseline drive does occur, we want to stop the ball early. We will have the closest guy on the baseline, which is 5, to rotate over and stop the ball before the ball reaches the paint. We will then have the opposite player, player 4, smash down to cover defender 5's guy. The top player, number 3, will split the difference, and player 1 will sink in. We want the original defender to recover and get back in front as soon as possible. Once that happens, he will take his guy, and we will get back to our original defensive assignments. What usually happens is a pass is going to be made from the baseline to the corner. When the ball reaches the corner, we will perform a defensive strategy called Xing out, where 3 will close out to the ball and 4 will close out to the gap. We call this an X out because their pass to their new defense positions makes an X. 4 runs to the gap, and then we have 5 recover back to his guy, and we will have 1 play in the help.
Great city to host events. I mean, football, basketball, baseball, you name it.
Man. And facilitating has Virginia in control.
Are you slanderizing the pace? Anytime you get an open opportunity, easier team, you got to seize it. Nice little fade screen. Mooney, look at this cover.
Moretti on a wing, and finally the Red Raiders have it.
And tonight after the Duke-Carolina game, it's the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament presented by New York Live. Live from Las Vegas, Colorado is playing Washington now. Here on ESPN tonight, you can see Oregon.
The questions that always need to be answered when playing the pack line defense is, am I in the pack? Can I help stop the ball? Can I see the ball and my man? The first technique of playing in the gaps is the gap and hold. The gap defender will react to what happens to the ball. If the ball handler just dribbles and doesn't pass, he's going to stay in the gap to stop the ball. If the ball handler does make the pass, he's going to get back to his guy and have a good high hand closeout. With this technique, because it is slightly delayed, we usually will have somebody stunt at the ball. 4 will stunt at the offensive player to make them hesitate and then hurry and recover back to their gap. This allows 3 to have time to recover and be able to stay in front of the ball. A question a lot of coaches ask is, how do you play in the gap? There's a lot of different techniques, but one of the techniques that we do is we jump to help, we turn our hips, we sprint 2 steps, and then we get into an athletic stance. We want to make sure that we are inside the pack, and we want to make sure that we're as close up to the line as possible, because we want to make sure that we stop the ball early. If we're too far back, then we won't be able to stop the ball early, and it's really hard to recover back to our guy when we are deep in the pack. If we can make the other team shoot contested shots outside the pack and have the ability to recover, it's going to be a long night for the offense.
Yes. Listen.
Got to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Spacing and trying to dribble drive. I'd like to see him doing more ball screens up here and then re-screen again. Well, they're doing a great job covered.
Mooney, time to shoot over Hunter.
Tough shot again against a bigger Hunter.
Man standing on the nail, playing the zone.
Oregon has been a terrific second half team. You see their field goal percentage goes up to 49%, and they're going to need a big second half if they are going to advance. The 15 other teams in the Sweet 16 besides Oregon, all seeds 1 through 5. There's a good start.
Another gap technique that is used is stunt and recover. This gap help is not based off the movement of the ball. What will happen is the defender will make a stunt or a step towards the ball, and regardless of the ball being passed, will get back to their guy. With this technique, we have them take one step towards the ball and one step back into the pack line. This is generally used on a shooter. We don't have a lot of time to recover on shooters, so we want to make sure that we are able to recover so they take a contested three. There are a few different techniques to gap help, and they all have their benefits. Make sure to assess your team and your opponent to figure out which technique would be best for you. In the pack line defense, if your player moves, you move. And if the ball moves, you move, regardless if the player you're guarding moves or not. Two things we like to talk about when guarding cutters is, number one, is no passes inside the arc. The defense wants to prevent any and all penetration inside the pack, including passes. So all passes are denied when there's a cutter inside the arc. We should not be glued to the guy. You should be up the line and on the line in denial position. Number two, do not chase cutters outside the arc. As soon as the cutter has reached the pack line arc, the defender needs to release and slide into the proper gap position so that we can help on those drives.
DeAndre Hunter had the rebound. Eric Hunter stole it away from him. And bad pass. Javion Williams gives it up.
Today playing his 137th college basketball game after a fine career at Samford.
Chris Mack said early on in the year that he was the most important guy he got this summer because of that experience at the point guard position.
Wara was thinking of
First 2-point bucket of the night for the Hoos. Buddy Boeheim.
There's a lot of different ways you can go about defending ball screens. However, the Virginia Cavaliers will hedge ball screens and handoffs. When executing the hedge, player 1 forces the ball into the screen and player 5 drives the ball handler up towards the half court line. Defender 3 will jump to the ball into the gap. Players 2 and 4 will pinch to the paint. 2, in this example, will hit the roller, which we call a tag, to make sure that when the ball handler is coming off the screen and looking at the roller, he can see that the roll is covered, which allows time for defender 5 to recover back to the roller.
Pair there, though. Dribble. Up top, Withers with the swing. Downstairs, Washington doubled up. Shot clock to 7. Knocked away by Beekman. And Beekman will slip.
5 boards, 4 assists. Pritchard is the man who makes it go for the Oregon Ducks. It's a team that has won 10 straight. Long 3. And it's Diakite with the board.
When hedging ball screens, a lot of teams will pick and pop. This is because there's going to be 2 guys on the ball for half a second. When that happens, one's going to be able to go over the screen, 5 is going to be pushing the ball handler towards the half court line, and teams know that it takes a second to recover. So when teams are hedging, we're going to have a defender come up and stunt towards the player popping to prevent them from shooting the basketball, giving the defense enough time to recover and get back to playing in the gaps.
It's on the floor, very good going left with the bounce. They do a great job flash screening and moving.
Offensive teams against the hedge will slip the ball screen. Slipping the ball screen means as the offensive player will go up and act like they're going to set a screen, and then in the last second they'll dive straight to the basket. We just need to make sure when this occurs that our defenders can recognize this. In this case, defender 5 knows and recognizes this is happening and will stay with the guy slipping. Everything else is going to be the exact same as if there was a hedge. 3 is going to be jumping to the ball, 1 is going to stay with the ball, 2 and 4 are going to pinch towards the paint to help with the slip. When we are defending off-ball screens inside the pack line, we are going to chase, specifically lock and trail, which means that we're going to stay on the guy coming off the off-ball screen by being on their hip and trying to make them curl off the screen straight into our guy that is guarding the screener.
83-84% of his free throws. And especially you don't want to let a great shooter see the ball go through the net 3 times.
Forrest off a screen. Clark stays with him.
He's got 2 screeners down on the blocks and had different cutters running off.
Forrest over Clark, not there, and a weak save.
As anxious as it gets. He's trying to stay stone-faced. Over, wanting it, driving, tough shot, defended well by Hunter, but he didn't pick it up.
When going against a stagger or double screens, the defender chasing the runner coming off the screen will lock and trail. They're going to be right on their hip, forcing them to curl off the second screen. When defending the top screener or second screen, the guy guarding the screener is going to have his hand up to be in the passing lane, so it's not an easy pass to the player coming off the off-ball screen. The first screener defender 4 in this case, is going to open up and cover the middle. This makes it so the defender can see the ball and the 2 screeners. Defender 4's job is to be ready to guard slips or any other movements towards the hoop after the screens occur.
Follically challenged as well. Yeah, there's a heavy dose of discrimination against bald people that's very annoying. But
when guarding flare screens, we want to force a player to reverse curl and go into where the pack line is. We want the defender to trail the offensive player off the flare. We will then have 5 in this case, and will open up and not allow any drives off the flare.
State is in this game despite the fact their top 3 scorers, Dorn, Johnson, and Bryce, have 18 points. Devin Daniels, who missed that one, is picked.
Against handoffs, Virginia almost always goes under the player and opens up. When guarding the ball, the on-ball defender must open up and allow the off-ball defender space to get through. In this situation, 2 will come through the open space that 1 gives by taking a step back. Virginia does sometimes switch handoffs. When switching in the pack line defense, players must always come together. to avoid mistakes. And what they mean by this is that they must physically touch and talk it out. When they are switching, one defender will take the ball and the other defender will take the player without.
And the coaches, assistant coaches on Oregon look at each other like, hey, that's what we're going to give up. And wow, Keehan Clark making the best of it.
Lewis King has scored the last 9 for the Ducks. Got the ball in his hands here with Jerome on him. At 6'9", going to work. And Jerome just in his pocket.
Great feel for distance. Knocked down big time.
14 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds.
Look at that footwork.
Culver got around him and got the put.
Now we're going to talk about the pack line post box. In the pack line post box, there are 2 rules. No 2-foot catches are permitted within the zone, and players are tasked with the responsibility of pushing catches outside of the post area. When the ball is up top, there can never be a feed to the post from the top. The defender must always play up the line and on the line so that there is no pass from the top to the offensive post player. However, he cannot get himself too high that the offensive player is able to receive a pass over the top. When the ball is on the side, the post player will 3-quarter on the high side, attempting to smother the offensive player by pushing them towards the baseline and out of the post box. When the ball is in the air, the defender must quickly slide behind the offensive player to put himself between the ball and the basket. When the ball reaches the low post, what the Virginia Cavaliers will do is choke the post. This is when ball side defenders dig at the ball. Digging is a brief lunge by a perimeter defender toward a post-up offensive player intending to bring secondary ball pressure. Perimeter players will hesitate before the post player dribbles and get really aggressive when the low post player dribbles the ball. Guards choking must jump to the ball on the pass and keep vision of the ball and their man at all times.
The Godfather, we used to call him. He dispensed knowledge.
Dunbar dumps it in the wild. He's already hit a shot in here. In the paint, gets Diakite to commit. Shot's too strong. And Jerome snacks it for the Wild.
The Virginia Cavaliers will trap the post feed. 5 guarding the post initially is in a 3-quarter stance on the high shoulder of the offensive post player. As the ball is passed to the post, 5 will jump behind the player, allowing the player to only attack middle, taking away baseline. When the Cavaliers trap, it's usually with 2 bigs, and the trap is supposed to occur as soon as the ball is in the air. When the ball is in the air, 4 will slide over to trap the post, 3 will sink and guard the opposite 3 players along with player 2. If the offensive post player takes a bounce out dribble or escapes the trap, player 4 will sprint back to their guy, and player 2 and 3 will recover to their gaps. Player 1 the whole time will be denying entry back out.
Tremendous player here at Syracuse. He played in the NBA. Which, by the way, he was a big part of the 6th overtime game. Do you know that it's coming up on the 10-year anniversary of that Syracuse, Connecticut?
And thought about it.
Do a little very good in this area of the floor.
Time to shoot. Underneath with 1 on the shot clock. And
Cavangeli draws a double team.
Most important part of the pack line defense is the transition defense. Transition defense begins when a shot is attempted. We usually send 3 to the glass and have 2 back on the shot. We usually have the 3, 4, and 5 go to the glass, and we have the 1 and 2 sprint back. We have 1 up front at the half-court line, and we'll have another player back at the hoop. The player back will be responsible for protecting the basket, and the one by the half-court line is going to be responsible for picking up the ball, which is going to usually be the point guard. Once the other team has possession of the ball, we want to make sure that we get everybody back in a full sprint. So our 3 and 4 and 5 are in a dead sprint back on defense. This is where communication is key, and this is where we talk about our heat up line, where we want the point guard to pick up the ball. Once they get back on defense, they will move up to be in their gaps before the offense can attack. When the guard picks up the ball, there's usually going to be a trailer defender. It's usually going to be number 4. The other defender will load to the ball to force the offensive player to slow down. We call this being in the shadow, or being in the help in transition. Once the ball is stopped, we play our normal pack line defense, and we have one on the ball applying consistent pressure and have our 4 players in the pack.
He just can't sit for it.
Nice little hands to get the ball back.
Jamison, though, takes it for the Bulldogs, who hurry up the court. They've scored on 1 of 9 trips down the floor. Make it 1 out of 10. Another.
It's about 33, and White is it. Hey, look, Virginia missed a 3. They missed 2 in a row. We call this a slump. Williams off the mark with his second. It's